Well, the clock on the screen may be counting down to the big day for the general elections, but the drama in the political scene unfolds yet again with dangerous intent this time. Although they signed and still signing several peace accords, well, questions arise over its impact. How committed are politicians to the agreements? Good evening. Welcome to Nigeria 2015. I'm Chamberlain Oso. Well, they're supposed to be preparing for the general elections, but it appears some may have found some extra political activity to engage themselves with, and sadly, it's violence. Well, the explosions and sporadic gunshots in Rivers State today were part of what many have been working to avoid. The agreements that they signed, the peace accords that they've all put pen to paper to, is aimed at ensuring that they have peaceful elections, peaceful campaigns, and associations across board. But in Rivers State, today, that is not what we found. The distribution of the permanent voter cards notwithstanding, voters are asking more questions about how and where to get theirs. But INEC today say they have now distributed about 75.88% of the PVCs. What the Commission also says, sensitive ballot materials are now in the vault of the Central Bank of Nigeria. Well, as always on the program, our correspondents are on hand to bring us up to speed on what's going on at their location.
Hello, I'm Linda Akibe, standing by to give you an update on critical happenings in Abuja.
Hello, I am Omelogo Nadi, reporting from the House of Representatives wing of the National Assembly, from where I would bring you up to speed on events on the floor of the House today as lawmakers resumed from recess.
So, what is the conversation about in the social media this time? Well, our web team provides several platforms for you to air your views on the program. You can tweet at us using the hashtag Nigeria2015. Well, please use the Twitter handle you see on your screen at Channels TV and or at Chamberlain Oso. Well, if you have comments or questions, do send us an email, nigeria2015@channelstv.com. Well, joining us tonight, we will have from our studios in Abuja, Honorable West Idahosa. Well, he will be on hand to bring us comments concerning our focus today. So we'll join you in a minute, Honorable Idahosa. But then, today, the National Assembly reconvened, and as expected, election issues were part of the issues they considered. Well, from the Red Chamber, the Senate started with a welcome address. The Senate President there says, ordinarily, he would have just gone ahead to the session of the day without the welcome address for the senators. But he says, these are no ordinary times. The times are delicate. The times are different that we found ourselves in. And so the Senate President says, well, yes, indeed, much as they've seen all of those times. But he goes on to say that the action of politicians, the political class, the body language, is not sending a good signal. And he then calls on them to be true statesmen. He says it's time for them to stand up and be counted, not just mouthing all of those words about being true statesmen. In his address, the welcome address by the Senate President after the election break today on the floor, he goes on to say, as statesmen and women, we must rise to the occasion and help reduce tension. We must refrain from acts or statements that will aggravate this already charged atmosphere across the country. This is time for us to be true statesmen, both men and women. And then he says, all of that commentary about the interim national government, he says, look, perish that thought. It's alien to our Constitution. Nowhere whatsoever. Anyone who has any of such thoughts should just relegate it to the background because it's got no space whatsoever. But then the Senate President now says, yes, indeed, they, as the country looks onto them, they have to stand up to their constitutional responsibility. He enjoys all of them. He refers to them in that last paragraph of his speech. He says, above all, I urge you my distinguished bosses, he used that word, to devote time to our constitutional responsibility as we have always done. The Senate President signs out. And then we moved on to the floor of the House of Representatives, wherein the Speaker of the House, Honorable Tambuwal, also welcoming the members there, says, yes, he spoke about the elections quite all right, but he says, remember everyone, Nigeria is supreme. He urged them all to resist anyone whatsoever, any group of people, politicians, they could be, who may try to subvert the process. He says the country is superior to any of such, and so they should go ahead and do the right things. But then the Speaker didn't just jump straight to that comment. He also cautioned politicians to be wary, act as is expected of them. But, you know, he spoke about certain other things. He talked about the budget, the petroleum industry bill, before he came down and talked about the general elections, how they were going to deliberate on the postponement, which he says is ill-timed. The security reasons they cited notwithstanding, but then that has happened, and then they will take it from there. So two key things. He also says they will address the petroleum industry bill and the 2015 budget, although he says it was brought to them late, but they will go ahead and consider it. But afterwards, the Senate then summoned the chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission. He is to appear before them. They, among so many questions, they expect him to come forward to the Senate and explain to them. He will appear on the 17th of February. Why did he shift the elections? You know how these things go. There's a lot that has been said already about it, but before the Senate, he is expected to brief them. But he's not just going to come alone. They did ask him to come with the card readers. That generated some talking points. Some people wondered, wait a minute, why do we require him to come with the card readers? You know, politicians, some expressed strong reservations about it, but then the chairman of to speak on this matter. So we will focus on what has transpired, some of the issues outlined, the motions, the debates, and how they will pan out tomorrow when they reconvene or when they go back to the National Assembly. So give us a moment. We'll be back.
Exchange of pleasantries as members of the House of Representatives resumed plenary after a 5-week recess. No sooner than the day's proceedings began, the Speaker of the House announced notices of defection from 6 members of the ruling People's Democratic Party to 4 other parties. Robinson Owak from Akwa Ibom and Mohammed Ibrahim from Jigawa defected to the APC. Tobias Okuri Chukwemeka and Peter Ali, both from Ebonyi State, moved to the Labour Party. Apan Umor from Akwa Ibom defected to a court party, while Chineye Eke from Abia State defected to APGA. Defections that gave the All Progressives Congress a clear majority in the House of Representatives. In his welcome address, the Speaker of the House reminded the House of the crucial tasks before them, which ought to be concluded before the dissolution of the 7th Assembly, such as the 2015 Appropriation Bill, the Constitution Amendment Bill, and the Electoral Act Amendment Bill, which he said must be expedited.
Also of the utmost urgency is the Electoral Act Amendment Bill, which has already been passed by the 2 chambers. The House of Representatives has already constituted a harmonization committee, and I believe that the Senate will do same expeditiously so that we can wrap up soonest. This is very critical as the amendments contained therein provide the clear legal framework for participation in the electoral process by internally displaced persons, IDPs, whose numbers are no doubt substantial.
The House adopted the 4th alteration of the Constitution Bill 2014, following the presentation of the report on the resolutions of the State Houses of Assembly on the amendments to the 1999 Constitution and the motion raised by Deputy Speaker of the House, Emeka Ihedioha, and 52 other members. The House resolved to pass the bill and transmit to the Presidency for assent as soon as possible. Omelogo, Nadi Channels Television News.
Well, that's a quick brief on what transpired on the floor of the House of Representatives today. Let's get to Honorable West Idahosa, who joins us from our studios in Abuja. Good evening, and thank you for joining us today, Honorable Idahosa. Well, yes, indeed, the National Assembly reconvened today, and many expected them to, among so many other things, also talk about. All right, yes, I will turn into Honorable Idahosa. Thank you again for joining us today. But about what was expected today while they reconvened and talked about the elections. Well, first and foremost, the House of Reps did say the PIB, the 2015